Hi, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this webinar on three stories negotiating the new normal. The last, 14 to 16 weeks, what we have experienced as humanity around the world has challenged us. No amount of business continuity planning could have prepared any company for what was set to come. The customer experience industry or the customer services industry in particular was the most challenged. We were not given necessarily the status of being an essential service. And we had to grapple on how to come to terms with continuing to provide services in this new environment. And we thought it is such a great opportunity to bring together experts from various companies to talk about how companies have dealt with it. So I thought we will pose four questions. I spoke to customer experience professionals and realized the four questions that everyone wanted answered. One, what have we seen in the last 10 weeks, 14 weeks? How did people respond to it? Number two, what is a best-in-class story? Who has responded well and used this as an opportunity to set the foundation for a new way to do business? Third, what is likely to be the new normal? How are we future-proofing our business for this new era? And fourth, what are likely to be the measures of CX success as we go along? And to answer these four difficult questions, I thought we should bring in four great experts. So we are fortunate, we have got four wonderful experts who will each share their war stories of having worked together with some of the leading customers from around this region. I want to invite these guests one by one. First up, I want to invite Pranay Anand, Director of Intelligence Workspace with NTT. Welcome, Pranay. Great to have you.
Thank you, Manoj, and I trust you and your family are well during these difficult times.
Oh, I never thought I will address a webinar from my bedroom. So here I am talking to Pranay and everyone else from the privacy of my bedroom. Privacy is gone. Excellent, Pranay. Welcome. I would also like to invite John Mark, Director of Digital and Conversational AI with Genesys. Welcome, John Mark, all the way from sunny Singapore.
Good afternoon. I wish also everybody well.
Nice, colorful shirt, John Mark. You're adding color to our life. I want to invite Tim Dawson, Partner Solutions Lead from Google. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Manoj. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
I can see you and John Mark are spending a lot of time together. It has influenced clearly your dressing style. And next up, I want to invite Dave Shin, Director Solutions Consulting from Genesys as well. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Manoj.
Excellent. So, we've got four amazing guests who will walk us through their stories and their lessons. And what I will do is I'll pose these questions with one of them at a time. So maybe John Mark, Tim, and Dave will come back to you shortly. We start with Pranay. Yeah? So Pranay, you have a huge vantage point. Being a part of a global operator, you get to see what is happening on the network. You are serving customers around the region. So what have you seen, in the last 10 weeks? And how have you, let's say, responded, to support and address the challenges the customers have faced in the last 10 weeks?
Thank you for that, Manoj. Yes, you're right. We do have an advantage point, some would say, but also an obligation to be there for our clients, like all of us in this panel today. So we went into lockdown quite a few weeks ago. We must all also realize in Asia, China gave us an early warning, and our business in China gave us ideas as to how to prepare. So we looked at it through 6 lenses. We saw customer demands through 6 lenses. The first one was, how do I securely connect and work remotely, right? And this is where all the collab technologies came into play, etc. Then very quickly, there was a huge demand on secure connectivity, connecting to the hyperscalers, connecting to data centers, etc. And when that happened, working from home and then connecting to hyperscalers, a massive shortage or requirement for cybersecurity. We saw a 20x increase in cybersecurity attacks, people attacking the homes, during these vulnerable times. Large-scale events like digital events like what we're trying to establish here today we saw a demand on that. Organizations wanting to communicate with their customers and their staff alike. So a lot of these events moved to digital platforms. And last but not least, the entire customer service operation, right, being very, very challenged around that. But to grapple all of that, the fundamental shortages we saw was the availability of technology elements and components. So the whole logistics, supply chain. And these are the 6 areas we've been working with our clients and partners in trying to address the last few weeks.
Excellent. So Pranay, NTT yourself, you are a large global telecom company. Potentially your organization and addressing this change for your organization itself may be a single biggest challenge and a big lesson in itself. So would you want to, maybe that is, would you like to share that story of how NTT has gone about dealing with this and how you have prepared yourself?
So you're right with that, Manoj, that we are a global carrier, a telecoms provider as well. And I suppose some way we were drinking our own champagne, right? Remote working, securely working from home is in the bloodline of what we do. So we prepared our organization months in advance to deal with this pandemic. And the story I'd like to share is how NTT as an organization, we morphed during this time. We provide essential services to organizations that provided the essential services to our citizens across all industries. We were able to support our clients, right? Support them through our global delivery centers, our agents, our technical resources, without missing an SLA. So we were able to deliver calls, deliver emails, deliver connectivity to them. Everybody had access to laptops and secure connectivity. We also had put in all sorts of operational guides and manuals around when we were working from home or in a situation like this. But what we actually accelerated months ago was our ambition to move to a right sourcing model, but with an automation mindset. And what I mean by that, we embarked on using technologies like Genesys, Google Dialogflow, Contact Center AI, in elements around conversational AI, where our clients could speak to bots and get human-like personalized experience. And we were able to then use automation from the conversation layer all the way down to the supply chain, where if we needed to reset passwords or we needed to install software for our clients, that could happen in an automated fashion.
Excellent. And then Pranay, so what defines the new normal moving forward? As you take stock of this, and how do we, I don't think any company would have prepared for this level of business continuity. So what is the new normal that you are preparing NTT for?
I think for us is, I think what doesn't change, Manoj, is keeping the eye on the prize, which is client centricity, right? If we focus on that, I think everything will be all right. How we prepared around that is how we measure and manage our business moving forward. So the number one priority is on employee and client safety, right? If you don't feel safe and secure, it's not worth doing, right? The second one is on engagement. Realistically, we acknowledge that anywhere up to 25 to 30% of our staff will continue to work from home until we see fit and everybody comes back. How do we ensure that they're engaged, right? And then start looking at a new rule book around productivity and employee engagement with what are the KPIs moving forward, right? There's a perception in Asia, like for many years, you got to be seen in the office to be seen as working and things like that. Now, this sort of stigma, that's all out the window now, right? So the way we measure productivity will be very different moving forward. The way we set KPIs will be very different. But I think the one thing that doesn't change is the good customer service, and focusing on the customers we have today is where we got to start.
Excellent, Pranay. Pranay, thank you for those opening comments. So I'll come back to you. Let me just invite our rest of our guests to come and share their perspectives. Thanks, Pranay. So next up, I would want to invite John Mark and Tim Dawson. They have been partners in crime in terms of working together with customers in the region, in terms of collaborating. So you guys have a huge opportunity to work with, again, a cross-section of customers in the region. John Mark, you talk about conversational AI, and Google is driving the entire work around AI. So I can see a great partnership work. So maybe first up, some opening comments from you all on what did you see? What did you see as the challenges customers faced, and how did you help them in these last 10 weeks or 16 weeks or so?
Yeah, Manoj, I love stories, and now I would like to bring a very practical story from one of our customers in Thailand. So it's a government contact center of Thailand. It's in a way, it's a Thailand multi-agency contact center outsourced to a company called TOT, and they actually end all calls from various agencies in Thailand. The reason I'm taking this example is that it's no surprise that the pandemic has shaken up all the businesses around the globe. But government agencies have specifically been on the front line during the pandemic, from immigration, transport, healthcare, and so on, you name it. They really have been on the front line. And TOT, so the outsourcer, has faced a challenge never seen before. 5 times more calls daily. And I repeat, 5 times more calls daily. Do you see yourself doing 5 times more work? We can do 2 times, 2.5, but 5 times, no. And those calls were from citizens and businesses, and mostly about the government support for the pandemic situation. Most physical locations of the government were closed, no physical option, and also the company or TOT had to relocate agents to work from home. We'll talk more about that later. And if that was not challenging enough, the measures and plan have been changing sometime every day. There was a measure on Monday, and on Tuesday it was a bit different or a new measure. And the impact went significant. So for TOT, it was really unable to offer timely response, putting callers on long wait on the phone, but also, and most importantly, unable to maximize the time you have to spend with people who have very, very critical questions. So to get the story short is, how did we overcome this challenge? Quickly, TOT realized that the traditional way of automation, like putting self-service option in an IVR, didn't work. First, because you need to adapt every single day, and that's not something you do in an IVR. But most importantly, when you put 4 or 5 options in the IVR, this is irrelevant for citizens and businesses because they have a very personal situation to explain. They need a solution that hopefully they could benefit from for their very unique situation, and not the way around, like picking up. Okay, we have 5 solutions. Pick one and try to figure out if that's the right one. No, it didn't work like that. So people, the only way they had to is actually to talk to someone. Speak to someone was the only option to explain. And earlier in March, TOT asked Genesys and Google to help. And they knew there was only one way, is to implement conversational AI directly embedded into the IVR. So in that way, the callers, they can have a human-like conversation, to say, with an AI agent. We can capture their very personal situation in a natural way, with their own words, interfacing with a human-like voice, with a female voice in Thai, which is pretty nice, and allow the conversation to be non-linear, because as human, we go left, right, and so on. And that's what we are going to do today as well. So TOT wanted something that could train easily and something that could change easily to change those conversations and improve those conversations very quickly. And I'm very proud because together with TOT and Google and Genesys, this experience went live in Thailand in May. And now the training process of the new conversational AI IVR is ongoing. We get a lot of analytics of what people need, how they express themselves, and we need to make it stronger, richer, and more personalized. Just a final note, I want to say that TOT will now extend this contact center AI foundation much beyond this pandemic situation and much beyond across multiple agencies. And this truly is an amazing story, Manoj. What do you think?
Absolutely. And maybe the pandemic accelerated the entire process of transformation that would have otherwise taken organization a long time to decide. And this is like an agile way of responding and building businesses just like a startup, right? Who could have thought a TOT, a company which potentially is maybe at least 100 years old, behaving in such an agile manner to respond to this crisis?
Yes, absolutely.
Tim, you want to comment? You want to add how did this partnership work? How did you integrate it so effectively to deliver this value proposition?
Well, I don't have a lot to add to Jean-Marc's story. He tells it so well. I think what I'd like to do is actually tell you another story, if you don't mind. What I'd like to do is actually take us across the Pacific, back to my home country. I feel very fortunate that I now live in Australia, believe me. But I want to take you to the state of Illinois. And as we know, the U.S. Not only struggling right now, but has struggled very much with the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the outcomes of this, of course, is massive unemployment. And in the state of Illinois, the department that handles unemployment claims, called the Department of Employment Security, IDES for short, processed more than 1 million claims for unemployment benefits from March 1st through May 9th. That's 11.5 times more than the same period in 2019. So a massive increase. And as you can imagine, that onslaught just quickly overwhelmed the IDES workers and put applicants at risk of very long wait times, not only for their claims to go through, but just to get answers to basic questions. For a bit of context, before the pandemic, the IDES website averaged 40 to 50,000 page views per day. Around March 15th, that number hit 200,000 and kept going and peaked at 2 million page views in one day. So for help, IDES tapped a Google virtual assistant, first using our chatbot technology. In the first 2 weeks after launch, that Google chatbot received 3.2 million inquiries. This has moderated, thankfully, but the bot still gets about 140,000 queries a day. Then on April 28th, IDES then stood up a Google Voice bot, the second part of our virtual agent technology, to alleviate the increase in calls. Again, context, 10 to 15,000 calls a day before the stay-at-home order took place, and lately averaging almost 200,000 to 300,000 calls a day. And on one exceptional day, IDES received close to 1 million calls. So massive increase there as well. And we're now very pleased that IDES now reports that it's paying benefits, unemployment benefits, to 99% of so-called clean claims in a more timely manner. And 75% of those are receiving their first payment within 2 weeks. So really a great outcome of a really horrible situation, I would say.
What a fascinating story. What a fascinating story, and it would have been unthinkable to address this large volume of customer requests at any given point in time. So that really, so how does this work out for the future? How are we future-proofing the business as we move ahead? What is it that we have learned from this that kind of helps us define the new normal that you will see for the business, for businesses and customer experience teams?
I think for me, for the first time ever, I've seen some contact center closed, right? Physically on a website. Don't call us, we've closed. Or actually don't try because there's no way you will reach. And that's really the first time, and for a long period, right? So there's this trend of service automation that has been there already for a while. I really believe that will accelerate much, much faster than we've seen before. And it will be much more personalized because we've seen, automation is there already today, but in an unpersonalized way, it don't work that well. Yeah. I've looked at traditional IVRs, they've been there forever, in a way. It works, but they've reached the limit. Digital self-service on the web and apps, again, has been there for 10 years and quite mature. Certainly helped, but we're not enough. Because essentially they do the same thing. You design something, you design 20 tasks that consumers can do, and consumers, they can execute them the way you design it. It's very good for business as usual, but it's not enough. So I really see, we were talking about virtual agents. I really see that it has proven itself this year, before and during the pandemic. And I really see it as becoming what we call, I think Gartner calls it like that way, I love it, it's a legitimate interface. It's a new interface that we'll see coming more and more in the future. So I want to bring a bold vision, and that's my vision I had for some time, and I'm pretty sure it's going to come true. You see, if you compare it to digital self-service, so 10 years ago, we started digital self-service as a pure cost-cutting, cost reduction initiative. And now it's really a differentiator. I mean, many like me, I choose my bank, my insurance company, even my utility company, depending on how great their online banking or their app is. Truly, right? And many of my friends do. My vision is that will come very soon, the same with virtual agent or conversational AI experience, is that you would choose the business that has a very good one, a very professional one. And I just want to add the last thing, a special note on BPOs related to the example I took earlier with TOT. If that service automation accelerates, as we believe it will be, it will bring a lot of impact for those BPOs. They will lose business. Simply put it there. And the example of TOT is a very good one in the way that they thought about that. They knew about that. It's not an initiative we really started during the pandemic. It was an initiative bringing virtual agent and AI into their service offering, something they thought about it before, and that now actually became a no-brainer to accelerate for them and many other BPOs.
Excellent. Tim, you want to add what defines the new normal according to you? Fascinating comment, Jean-Marc, by the way. So you're saying that in the future, I will just decide a company. I may not even want to change a bank because the AI agent knows so much about me. I don't want to leave that rich history.
Yep.
Tim, you want to?
Yes, well, you know, my view and Google's view is a little different. You know, at our core, we're a technology company. We're also an information company. So I look at future proofing through this lens. So our mission since we started the company is to organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. And this mission, again, it's been since the day Larry Page and Sergey Brin started the company, and it's really driven everything that we do, including now our embrace of artificial intelligence. And we think that our deep expertise, based on our heritage and our experience, our expertise in machine learning, plus the rather unique benefit of the usage of billions of users, which constantly improves things like speech quality for our artificial intelligence capabilities. We think that Google's AI is making it easier for people to do things every day in many, many different ways. And so I look at it through this lens. I think we're future-proofing the business through AI, new ways to look at existing problems, whether it's rethinking healthcare, advancing scientific discovery, and of course, in this context, providing a really hyper-personalized experience in the contact center environment. And just to take that back to the state of Illinois, at a very basic level, what's interesting for them is there's no going back. So their Department of IT, based on the experience, has already received many, many requests for virtual assistants for other state agencies. Plus, the department has now realized that modernization can happen faster than originally thought. You know, we know government agencies, and, you know, Jam knows with large outsources like TOT, the same thing applies. Modernization doesn't normally happen very fast. But where here, the state of Illinois, the original strategy had been to put in a new information architecture, then add a bot to that. But now they see they can get away from that old government style static content site with just a bunch of words, lots and lots of words, to a really interactive and customer-focused self-servicing environment through the use of AI.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much, John Mark and Tim. We'll come back to you shortly. Let me invite our friend Dave Shin to share the fourth story. So, Dave, welcome, and thanks for patiently waiting at the backstage, but backstage from your living room,
Yes, yeah, backstage is great. We have good snacks.
So Dave, I think we covered in terms of the challenges. Maybe we start off with your inspirational story. What is the inspirational story you want to share?
So, unfortunately, I can't mention the name of the company yet, but because they're still working out press releases and everything. But it's very similar to what Jean-Marc spoke about. One of the big challenges that people faced were around, normally you'd release an RFP. You can't release an RFP because you got to go quickly. The process to approve spending had to also be circumvented. And then lastly, worrying about if we go to a cloud platform, which this company did, are we going to have the same parity in features and capabilities? But the reality, in faced with this company, they provide a service. They have retail shops, so people can go in and get technical support, or they can also go in and work out their bills, pay their bills, and ask questions and so forth. And shops were shut instantly, so they had to figure out how are we going to service our customers, or risk losing the customers, having them go to somewhere else. So what they did is, Genesys had an offer that we basically said, go to cloud. It's prescriptive. Just get voice. We'll get it up in a couple of days. And a lot of organizations took us up, including this one company. And so we did. We had it up in about 48 hours, just over 48 hours. And they were, they very quickly tested it and said, yep, okay, we can have voice quality from home. And they were able to start to rotate their people who are normally in the front of house, taking first off to take, calls. Yes, we're here. Ask your calls and ask your questions and things. And then they could start to introduce things like skills and so forth to say, yep, we can handle your billing questions and we can do technical support to make sure that you're, able to interact with us. And, at the end of the day, the customer has said, thank you very much. You've helped us save about 1,200 jobs, because otherwise, again, in that downturn, they would have been forced to basically lay people off. And instead, they're turning it into a positive, because now they're looking at, okay, what's next? How do we continue this going forward? And, when we look at what's the new normal, we're looking at what is next in terms of how we service. How do we make sure now that the customer expectation in terms of customer experience progresses? So with this customer, we've already kind of trimmed back on the experience that they had from a contact center perspective, but customers were okay because it was right to the point in terms of the service that they were getting. And so now they're looking at other types of channels and things like that.
Excellent. Great. Hey, thanks very much, Dave. Let us bring everybody back together. Can I maybe get Pranay and Jean-Marc and Tim back together, and maybe we talk we brainstorm together for a few things. So thanks very much for sharing those amazing stories. And before I get to ask them more questions, we invite questions from those of you who are listening. So go to the comment section on the YouTube channel you're watching and put the questions, and we'll make sure our panelists here try and respond to those questions to you. So maybe first up, let me ask the question first and say, so we defined, we saw some inspirational stories. We defined the new normal. What does the new measures of success look like? So if I'm a customer experience leader, what do you think is my measure of success at the end of this year or a couple of years down the road? So what do you recommend should be the new measures of success? Has that changed? Right? Maybe we start with Pranay. Pranay, what is the new measure of success I should put for myself?
I think it's an amazing question, because the answers now is probably different from, when a company started their financial year or when they locked in their strategy for the year. And I'll talk to it from two perspectives. One is a CX practitioner, but the other one is from someone who owns a P&L, right? As we've come out of this situation now, getting back into the new normal, there's massive pressure in securing our cash positions, right? So there's a massive expectation for us to keep as many jobs as we can, pay our bills on time, and ensure that we survive. And that goes for many businesses. I think the number one measure that most of our clients or CX practitioners will be looking for through the lenses of cost to serve, right? I think cost will be a pretty significant topic. Priorities will change. And this lens, we're just going to double down on this lens. How do we ensure that whether it's cost per transaction or product or service, how do we actually deliver that at an optimal cost, at the same time not compromise quality?
Excellent. So according to you, the number one priority is, hey, I got to save money. Top line is not growing or maybe even reducing in the near term for many, many companies. Preserve capital, and therefore reducing cost to serve is the number one criteria. Hey, Dave, do you agree? He's saying we could cut costs.
No, I'm going to have to disagree with my esteemed colleague, Pranay, because right now, businesses are trying to survive, right? So yes, they need to cut costs, but they also need to make sure that customers continue to come and do business with them. So we've got to continue to provide service that is easy, accessible, and this is the new normal going forward. Now people are looking at, okay, we've been experiencing things like Zoom and so forth. So we need to move into new technologies that support things like video chat and so forth. All the while still providing a easy to access good experience. So customer service, I think, is most important.
So you're saying we will define new measures of CX success. So
absolutely.
We will move away from measures such as average handling time to say,
right.
How much do you engage? What is my engagement ratio? Just like an e-commerce company, they maybe judge.
Yeah, those need to go out the window. It needs to be more around that, resolving things immediately to the point and with a satisfaction metric at the end of it.
Okay.
I'll just raise one more thing, if I may. I do not disagree that customer experience is important, but everything we're saying, video chat, all this has been available for the longest of time, and businesses have not implemented this. Now there's a massive pressure on our balance sheets. So how are we going to go about implementing this? This is the crux of the challenge that all CX practitioners will now have to answer.
And fortunately, we now have some good examples of customers like the one that Jean-Marc and Tim spoke about. So now we'll be able to going forward, which is really good for all of us.
So cost to serve. Second is new measures of customer engagement. And Jean-Marc, he will say every customer has their own AI bot.
No, not really. I really agree. I agree with both Pranay and Dave here. I'm more something in between. I've been ahead of digital commerce for more than 10 years. And the only thing you look at is traffic and conversion, right? If you apply this to the service or the customer service industry, it's adoption and conversion. But if you spend a lot of cost doing something, doing automation systems, AI or not AI, and adoption is not there, the only thing you're spending is cost. There's no way. There's no impact. No, you're not saving anything. You don't create any outcome. So usually it goes together. So actually, when you create a great experience around it, it drives adoption. And if you do it well, it drives conversion. If it drives conversion, it impacts your bottom line, and from a P&L point of view, it's visible. So that's really as simple. It's not new, but I think we forgot it a bit with some of initiatives we've seen the past years.
Hey, Tim. Sorry, I maybe jumped the queue. So cost, engagement. Google delivers both, is it?
Well, so I'll add another perspective. And again, as a technology company, so all the points that I've heard from Pranay and Dave and Jean-Marc, all relevant, all very important. From my point of view, and I'm going to mix some metaphors here, but I see that AI and automation, it's the glue, the bridge, stitching personalization together. Perhaps glue doesn't stitch. Maybe I need to be thinking about a needle and some thread. But stitching this personalization, this hyper personalization together, which helps those CX leaders achieve success, maybe across all these metrics. So a better customer experience, a more personalized experience should mean customers are more satisfied. Therefore, your CSAT scores go up, your engagement scores go up. Agents are then seen not as transaction engines, but as specialists. And again, because it's technology, all this should be done while keeping costs down. Who knows? Maybe AI is the answer to all of this.
Could be.
Yeah. Sorry, somebody is saying something?
No, I was just saying, yeah, it could be, definitely.
And
that's a whole, we may be opening up a whole other channel of discussion on the future of AI, and which of course is a very important conversation to have. I'm happy to do so.
Excellent. Hey, we're not getting any questions from the audience. Audience is a pretty silent participant today. Maybe I want to ask a couple more questions. We talk, and this is a series. We're going to talk about some of the other very important issues as we move ahead. We're going to talk about cloud. We're going to talk about accelerating the digital strategy. We're going to talk about security and compliance. What does that mean in this new era? We'll also talk about employee experience and how you can marry that to deliver a better customer experience. But we have a question now. Could you share any feedback from the client after having used the CCAI? So I think maybe it relates to both Jean-Marc as well as to Tim. So what were the challenges in going through it, and what is the feedback from the client as we went through this entire journey?
I can start.
I'm going to pass to JM, who I think can speak to this best.
Sure.
Okay. I think one of the lessons learned is a lot of industries and Genesys, Entity, Google, we've made the technology so accessible. I think, Tim, you jumped on it earlier. Technology is very accessible, easy to consume. But that's only a part of the equation. Yeah. So now it's a new set of skills to build conversations in the right way. So actually, we are more back on a whiteboard. There's no programming need. Back on the whiteboard, exactly back to the P&L part. What do you want to achieve? Right? Is it a satisfaction? Is it increasing uplifting revenue? What is it exactly we want to do? Back to basis, and then design it in a way. So the experience with CCI at the moment is technology is a risk. Is more than I've imagined as well myself, and but really the requirements, the business plan, so the business aspect of it is important, as well as new skills required to build those conversations. Luckily, this skill is available in many companies, right? But usually these projects, we need a bit of IT people, but we need a lot of people like content managers, knowledge managers that come into place, that knows how humans speak, how people converse. The mistake is it's a new interface. The mistake is to take, okay, well, it's like the web. So we glue everything we have in the web on the chatbot. Well, it can work, not really nice, but it can work on the chatbot. When it's voice, it's voice. Voice, short answers, we can ask questions different ways. We go left and right as a people, and designing it the way that it doesn't break, and actually it continues interacting with the customer in a nice way. Another point, and I'm going to pause here, is to really to look at a few use cases first. Do a few use cases doing well, because then you will get again the adoption, and then you will get the return, and you build from there. Don't try to do 100 things badly, because people they will be disappointed, or consumers will be disappointed, or citizens will be disappointed, and they won't come back.
Okay, excellent, great, thank you. Pranay, Dave, anybody wants to add something to it?
Look, and I think to JR's point, it's going to be a continuous evolution, right? I mean, this isn't a one-time, and that's something that we failed to do in the days of the IVR, right? Because when we ran surveys with clients and analysis, how often did they review that? They never reviewed it once they put it in. This is a total different paradigm, right? So every day is, the way this is going to move. It's agile. The technology allows you to be, agile in a manner to try and experiment, fail fast, and start all over again fairly quickly. I think the key thing we got to understand here is this gives us an opportunity an opportunity to really change things. But you're not going to get it right the first time, the first day. And that evolution is where you've got to invest your time, effort, and money in. Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, thank you very much, Varavik, for that question. And for others, if you want to ask the questions, if you're struggling, you need to log in. You need to log into your Google account so that you have the ability to put the comments and the questions. We got another question. What has been the general timeline for customers to see a break-even or ROI in deploying AI in CX? That is, how long does the customers wait for the cost reduction results to be seen? Good.
So I can speak to NTT. When we first deployed, just taking things away from the traditional voice channel into self-service and putting a bit of AI into it, we saw and given our business nature is very different, we're technology people. We are the level 2, 3 help desks. We are logging into routers and fixing codes or scripts and things like that. So the good news is we did that so that our people didn't need to talk to too many people. But we saw within 3 months that we were deflecting 80% of our voice traffic to self-service and the knowledge base we had created, right? So for us, the returns were fairly quick. Does that mean that it hit our ambition as far as the cost savings matrix that we put in? AI is just one part of the puzzle, right? It's a wide ambition. If you look at this whole automation gambit, you need your data to be right? You need it to be in one place. You need to normalize it, right? So we had to look at it through the lenses of what's our strategy around automation or customer experience, right? How do we look it through the lenses of data? How do we then bring in the touch points by digitizing it, looking it through the lens of an omni-channel experience? And only then we were able to put in automation. AI bots were one part of it for us to get to the optimal operating model in terms of the mix between an automated full-time equivalent employee versus a full-time employee. If we get all those pillars right, then we'll see the significant ROI that my business expects, right? So individually, I think you could say you'll see some returns, but the actual goal is to be looked through the lenses of an entire process.
Okay. And Mark, you want to put a number? 6 months, 9 months, 12 months?
I want to put a number, and I want to put some questions into it. So the first number I would say, if done right, I think that the 3 months is something you really trust. Shorter now, that's around this part. But that's the big but, and that's from experience. The AI application are very, they need a lot of food, right? And the food is data, okay? So you throw a lot of data to it, can learn very fast, and your return will be very fast. But because it's new, especially on chatbot, see people say, oh, it's new, so we can put it on our website, we can put it on our social media, on WhatsApp, and so on. That's okay. So it gets a lot of data to learn fast. What we've learned is on voice, because it's so new, and people are very protecting and say, oh, shall I wide open it to my call center? So let's try first to put it very small somewhere that no one is really touching it. Well, then if you don't get data, if you don't get people really interacting with it, it can take forever because it will not learn, right? If you put a traffic, and it doesn't need to be a big bang approach versus a very small thing. It's something in between, right? You put it in a place where you really think it will help, and because there's a lot of traffic on it, or significant traffic enough, it can go fast. And I've seen that in many industries now and many customers. It's a bit of resistance. They say, I see what it can do, but I don't want to give too much food. So if the thing starves, it's going to be more than 3 months.
And in particularly because now we have customers, earlier we would have to invest a lot in getting the customers to change their habit to accept this. But given today's situation, now we have customers who are willing to accept it simply because that is better than no service. So does that help accelerate the overall timeline of achieving a better ROI?
Yes, in a way, because if you look at IVR and so they are very cold. Welcome on this company. On the AI or conversational AI side, you can be very warm and very honest about that. So, hey, I'm the new virtual agent. Those are the 3 or 4, 5 things I can do very well, and the rest I will need a bit more time to learn. So, and the acceptance of this, if you're honest. So don't try to say that things will replace everything from day one. If you're honest about that, and that's a behavior or that's an experience that now even consumers are used to. Say, this is what I can do well. I cannot do this yet. Try me, experience me, and then I will do more things. That works a lot. That works well.
Correct. And in no way we could have imagined that somebody can address 2 million calls a day, just like Tim talked about earlier. Right? It is unimaginable that we can see something like that at any point in time. One thing which I think we have covered most of the questions, but one thing I want to ask before we wrap up the session today is, we didn't talk about cloud. And it didn't come up in the conversation at all. So isn't cloud a big enabler of this new normal? Shouldn't that be, did we just miss it because we got caught in the cost and customer engagement issue? We assumed cloud is the new normal?
I can speak to that. So the story that Jean-Marc spoke about, just a couple of weeks ago, they had nothing. And they quickly deployed cloud, and they had their cloud environment up, which was taking calls and everything, similar to the story I told, in like 2 days. And then from there, they were able, so they had this platform that could very quickly deploy rich capabilities like the bot platform that he's talking about on top of it. So, and again, cloud lets you deploy things, lets you, as Pranay was talking about, fail quickly and learn and do something new very, very quickly, very cost effectively, and still report and measure and make intelligent decisions. So yeah, the cloud capability, and initially people were worried, security and everything else. We're discovering, yes, there are challenges, but with the pandemic, what it's shown us is that people were able to get voice down to the desktop to let people take calls, work on things. And a lot of the security issues, there's lots of certifications and things that cover them in government and FSI and so forth. But a lot of it's around people and process, and those can be managed. The technology manages the security quite well. So yeah, cloud, absolutely. I highly recommend for people that have been sitting on the fence, and I know there's lots of them because we're dealing with them every day. Now's a great time to look forward and move to cloud, for sure.
And you wouldn't do in any other way if you were to start today. You wouldn't put a single dollar on any old infrastructure anymore, right?
No, definitely not.
I'll second Dave over there. I didn't speak about cloud because for me, it's a means of delivery, right? It's a means of delivery. If you get the strategy right, you get the operation elements right, and the enablement, and we talk about adoption services and all of that, irrespective. Now, the fact that you're able to answer 2 million calls in the state of Illinois, we were able to deploy our automation journey. We couldn't have done that by doing all of that on-prem. All the technology elements we've used to achieve this is, delivered from the cloud or part of it or in a hybrid setup. So I think the one thing we need to really take this conversation to as CX practitioners and stakeholders is look at the prize. Keep your eye on the prize, the outcome you want to achieve, right? And this pandemic, if anything, has proven that all these stigma or people sitting on the fence around security, all that sort of stuff, they all went out the door very quickly when you had to deliver a service and it was forced upon you. So what changed? The security threats were still there. What changed was you had to go and do it. We all ran out of excuses, job security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my biggest take on it is I don't think cloud should be a conversation. It is an enabler, and it is there for us to not spend millions of dollars to try something out. The whole start fast, fail fast. These platforms provide us with that mechanism. Let's really focus on the crux of it, and that is how I'm going to ensure my survival in this new era. How can I keep my cost to serve down? How can I ensure that I do not compromise in the personalization and the experience? And let the techos and the cloud junkies figure how that gets delivered. And that's why I think if we take this approach, we'll see leaps and bounds in terms of progress we make in our region.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great. Fantastic. I think we have no more questions. We've had we have set the stage. I think it's been a fruitful conversation. We will continue this dialogue as we go along. As I look at summarizing, two key takeaways. First, the contact center industry for the longest time was slow to adopt the cloud. Right? We gave all kinds of excuses why contact centers cannot be on the cloud. So in terms of all the application stack, contact center was potentially the lowest in order of priority of any company wanting to move it to the cloud. So that has changed overnight. Right? Second, we started experimenting with AI, but now we have seen that it is potentially the only way that we could have a proper business continuity at all in the future if we are going to deal. So we don't have an option but to leverage AI starting from today. And the benefits, as I heard from what John Mark and Tim talked about, is it takes us further in terms of personalization. Right? So while it starts off today in our ability to serve or reduce cost, but the future is the ability to deliver that personalization that changes everything. And the final two key takeaways, which is one, what Pranay said, we have to reduce the cost to serve. And how can we keep working on that and achieve and deliver those metrics to business owners? And second is change the customer engagement scores of success. So we need to start putting new measures of scores. Throw away the average handling times and talk about, hey, how much time did I engage with the customer? How long did they spend with us? And we have some of the e-commerce companies, as I look at, and I think Asia is such a great example where people are doing live entertainment shows inside e-commerce company applications just to boost engagement. So as we change that, then the customer experience industry will have such a greater opportunity to contribute. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I think it has been a fascinating conversation. For all of you dialed in, we appreciate you dialing in and listening, YouTubing in to listen to this session. What we will do is we'll summarize the key lessons from today. We'll put it together in the form of a nice deliverable, and we will update you on the upcoming events that will be there. So from all of us here, any final words of wisdom, maybe from each of you? Anybody wants to give a word of wisdom for the customer experience industry?
I think there's some new decisions ahead for businesses. Do they continue to keep very big contact center, or do they let more people work from home part-time and things like that? There's a lot of new decisions to be made.
Great. So you're saying we may make a decision what percentage of our contact center will be maybe outside the enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, John Mark?
I would like to add personalization is not necessarily about I know everything about you. It could be I adapt to you. So I talk the same language. I try to understand like AI system can do. And that's also personalization to me.
Great. Pranay?
Look, our world has changed, right? There's no better time for us to take a step back, right? Look into the future with a total different set of lenses, right? And to go out there and do what we wake up and strive to do best, and that is to provide the best experience to our clients, our people, and our partners.
Okay, Tim?
I would just echo that the future is here. This terrible pandemic has actually given us an opportunity to revisit how we approach things and what we do and what tools we have at our disposal, and there's a lot that we can do to make the future look bright.
Excellent. I think on that note, thank you everyone, and we wish you all great success and happiness and good health. And we will connect with you in the coming weeks for the continuing series of this CX Stories conversation. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.